In May 1916, a British aristocrat and a French diplomat sat down in a room with a map of the Middle East. No Arabs were present. No Kurds. No Palestinians. No Lebanese. Just Mark Sykes and François Georges-Picot, and between them, a ruler and a pencil. In a few hours, they drew lines that would become the borders of Iraq, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, and Israel. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a real estate deal. And the property they were dividing didn't belong to them. This is the story of the Sykes-Picot Agreement, the secret document that broke the Middle East. The world before the lines. To understand what Sykes and Picot did, you have to understand what the Middle East looked like before they touched it. For 400 years, the Ottoman Empire controlled the Arab world. Not as a collection of nation-states, as a single, sprawling empire. There were no borders between Syria and Iraq. No line separating Jordan from Palestine. People moved, traded, and lived across a vast, connected region. The Ottomans governed through provinces, vilayet, but these were administrative districts, not hard borders. A merchant in Damascus could travel to Baghdad without crossing a national boundary. The concept of Syria as a country didn't exist. Iraq was a geographic term, not a political one. This wasn't paradise. The Ottoman Empire was in decline, corrupt, and crumbling. But the Arab world was at least organized around its own logic, tribal, religious, and commercial networks that had evolved over centuries. That was about to change. The double promise. How Britain played both sides. World War I shattered the Ottoman Empire. And Britain saw an opportunity. In 1915, Britain made a promise to the Arabs. Sir Henry McMahon, the British High Commissioner in Egypt, wrote to Hussein ibn Ali, the Sharif of Mecca. The deal was simple. If the Arabs revolted against the Ottomans, Britain would support Arab independence after the war. Hussein agreed. The Arab revolt began in 1916, the one you've seen in Lawrence of Arabia. Arab fighters, backed by British weapons and gold, drove the Ottomans out of the Hejaz, out of Damascus, out of Jerusalem. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. While Britain was promising the Arabs independence, it was also making a completely different deal with France. And a third deal with the Zionist movement. 3 promises. 3 contradictory outcomes. Same piece of land. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a strategy. The agreement. Inside the room in late 1915, the British government sent Mark Sykes to negotiate with France's François Georges-Picot. Sykes was a 36-year-old baronet with a taste for adventure and a shallow understanding of the Arab world. Picot was a career diplomat who had served in Beirut and believed France had a historic claim to the Levant. The two men didn't consult a single Arab. They didn't study tribal boundaries. They didn't consider sectarian divisions. They looked at the map like a cake. Sykes drew a line from Acre to Kirkuk. Everything north of the line, Zone A, would go to France. Everything south, Zone B, would go to Britain. An international zone was carved out for Palestine. Russia, still a wartime ally, got a slice too, Istanbul and the Turkish Straits. The agreement was signed on May 16, 1916. It was kept secret for over a year. The Arabs, still fighting the Ottomans on Britain's behalf, had no idea. The betrayal. But then the Bolsheviks happened. In November 1917, the Bolsheviks seized power in Russia. And one of the first things they did was rifle through the Tsar's foreign policy files. They found the Sykes-Picot Agreement. And they published it. The reaction across the Arab world was volcanic. Britain had promised independence. Instead, they had secretly planned to divide the Arab world between themselves and France. The British government scrambled to contain the damage. But the damage was done. The Sykes-Picot Agreement was now public, and it proved that the Arab revolt had been built on a lie. The borders. What they actually drew when the war ended, Sykes-Picot became the foundation for the new Middle East. The lines Sykes and Picot drew became real. Here's what they created. France got Syria and Lebanon. But France didn't govern these as one territory. They split them further. Lebanon was carved out as a separate state to give Maronite Christians their own country, a decision that would fuel 15 years of Lebanese civil war starting in 1975. Britain got Iraq, Transjordan, and Palestine. But Britain immediately made another promise, the Balfour Declaration of 1917, supporting the creation of a Jewish national home in Palestine. This single sentence, 67 words long, set the stage for the Israel-Palestine conflict that continues to this day. The Kurds got nothing. The Kurdish people, estimated at 30 million today, were split across 4 countries, Turkey, Iraq, Syria, and Iran. They remain the world's largest stateless nation. A direct consequence of Sykes-Picot. Iraq got 3 Ottoman provinces, Basra, Shia, Baghdad, Sunni-dominated, and Mosul, Kurdish, stitched into a single country that had never existed before. How Britain built Iraq. The Cairo Conference. This is where the story gets even more cynical. In March 1921, Winston Churchill, then Britain's colonial secretary, convened the Cairo Conference. The goal? Figure out how to govern the mess Sykes-Picot had created. Churchill's solution was simple. Install friendly kings and let them rule on Britain's behalf. It was cheaper than garrisoning troops across the desert. Faisal, who had been part of the Arab revolt, was made king of Iraq, a country he had never visited. His brother Abdullah was made emir of Transjordan. Both were Hashemite princes from the Hejaz, not from the lands they were now ruling. Iraq was the most artificial creation. 3 provinces with nothing in common, Basra, Baghdad, Mosul, were forced into a single state. Churchill himself later admitted that Iraq was an unfortunate amalgamation, but it served Britain's purpose. A unified Iraq was easier to extract oil from than 3 separate territories. The consequences. A century of conflict. Now here's where the pattern becomes undeniable. Every major conflict in the modern Middle East traces back to Sykes-Picot borders, Iraq. A nation built on 3 rival sects. The Sunni-Shia-Kurd divide that has fueled civil war, dictatorship, and insurgency since 2003. It was baked into Iraq's design in 1921. Saddam Hussein held it together through terror. When he fell, the fractures returned instantly, because they had never gone away. Syria. The French mandatory government lumped together Alawites, Sunnis, Druze, Christians, and Kurds into one state. The Alawite minority eventually seized power through the Assad family, and when the Arab Spring came in 2011, the sectarian fault lines erupted into a civil war that has killed over 500,000 people. Lebanon. France created Lebanon as a Christian-majority state. Demographics shifted. By 1975, the fragile power-sharing agreement collapsed into a 15-year civil war. Israel-Palestine. The Balfour Declaration, made while Sykes-Picot was still secret, promised the same land to 2 peoples. That contradiction has never been resolved. The Kurds. 30 million people, no country. The largest stateless nation on earth. Divided by Sykes-Picot across 4 borders. Is Sykes-Picot still relevant? Now here's the uncomfortable question. Is Sykes-Picot still the problem, or is it just an excuse? Some historians argue that Sykes-Picot is overblown. That the borders, while artificial, have become real over a century. That Iraqis, Syrians, and Lebanese now have national identities that transcend sectarian lines. That the real problem isn't the borders, it's authoritarianism, oil politics, and foreign intervention. There's truth in that. Sykes-Picot didn't create every problem in the Middle East. The region had conflicts before 1916, and it would have conflicts without Sykes-Picot. But here's what Sykes-Picot did that was uniquely destructive. It created states that were designed to fail. Not because the people inside them were incompatible, but because the states were never built to serve the people inside them. They were built to serve European empires. The borders were drawn to give France access to the Levant and Britain access to oil. Governance was arranged through puppet monarchs and colonial administrators. The question of what the people actually wanted was never asked. The unraveling. ISIS and the end of Sykes-Picot in 2014, ISIS did something symbolic. They drove a bulldozer through the border crossing between Iraq and Syria and filmed it. The video was titled, "The End of Sykes-Picot." It was propaganda. But it was also a recognition that the Sykes-Picot borders had lost their legitimacy. The nation-states they created, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, had been so hollowed out by war, corruption, and sectarianism that they could no longer hold. ISIS didn't destroy Sykes-Picot. They exploited its failure. The borders that two men drew in 1916 could only hold as long as someone was willing to enforce them. Britain enforced them through colonial rule. Then through puppet monarchs. Then through the Cold War order. When that order collapsed, the borders started to buckle. The real question beneath the surface, the real story of Sykes-Picot isn't about lines on a map. It's about a principle. When borders are drawn without the consent of the people who live inside them, those borders become a source of conflict, not stability. This wasn't a war. It was something quieter, more sinister. It was a meeting. Two men. A pencil. And a century of consequences that the world is still paying for. The Sykes-Picot Agreement is a chilling reminder that the most devastating decisions in history are often made in faraway rooms by people who will never have to live with the consequences. If you want to understand the modern Middle East, you have to understand how it was built. This video is part of our series on the hidden forces that shaped the world. Watch our video on the Berlin Conference, the meeting that put Africa in a cage, next. It's the same pattern, different continent. Make sure to subscribe to Epic Insight and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. And let us know in the comments, what other hidden history should we uncover next? Thanks for watching.